All right, everybody, we are back today for my rookie draft fades. I dropped my updated rankings earlier this week. I did the rookie draft targets a couple of days ago. We are closing out one of the busiest weeks of the year with some players I'm just not likely to draft in rookie drafts at their current cost. And let's get right into this one. My name is Paul. This is Pure Potential. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, let's start off today with a harsh but undeniable fact. You cannot love every rookie. You can say that you do, you can tweet out nice things about them, but when it comes down to it, when you are in your leagues, you're on the clock, you have a finite number of rookie picks, and you simply cannot be in on every rookie. If you have a guy that you like more than the market, a guy that you want to have plus exposure to, right? If you play in a lot of leagues and you're like, I want this guy in 3 leagues, okay, well then you have to pass on other rookies in those leagues, which means every time you have a target, every time you have a rookie you like a lot, there necessarily must be a player that you're fading. And that's what we're talking about today. Rookies that not necessarily that I hate, but rookies that are being drafted at a spot in rookie drafts where I just simply can't justify clicking their names because I like other players more. So as we go through the list today, yeah, I'm going to point out some red flags with these prospects, but you need to understand that I'm not saying I hate these players in all cases or that I would never want them on my Dynasty team. This video is about ADP. So your rookie draft, it could go completely different than what the Dynasty Data Lab rookie ADP is showing. And maybe you can draft these players at totally reasonable prices. I have already drafted a couple of these players in my rookie drafts, but I got them behind their ADP. The players that I liked more were already gone. So that's an important caveat. I feel like whenever it's a video that's negative about players, it's easy to kind of go overboard with it. But again, this is about cost. Just for what it's worth, last year's video that I did, fades at cost, guys that I wasn't really drafting, Rome Odunze at the 105 was a fade for me. Brian Thomas at the 110, that's a big whiff. A.D. Mitchell at the 205, Troy Franklin at the 209, and J.T. Sanders at the 301. So 4 out of 5 didn't really live up to their ADPs. Brian Thomas, obviously that was a big miss. Now I will say, checking out the 2025 rookie ADP, I think it's pretty sharp overall. Most players are being drafted within a few picks of where I would realistically take them. I don't see anybody that's wildly above or below my ranking. So the fades that we're talking about today, they're really more what I'd call soft fades. They are, again, a necessity in order to get the prospects that I have a little bit more faith in. But the first one might be the one I feel the most strongly about, and that's Cam Ward, quarterback for the Titans, going 103 overall in rookie drafts right now. Obviously, this year's first overall pick. I talked about Ward in my rookie tiers video earlier this week, but I've got Ward ranked as my 105, and I actually have him a tier behind Hunter, Hampton, and McMillan. So I don't even have him in the same group with those guys, and he's currently being drafted on average ahead of 2 of them. He's going ahead of McMillan and Hunter in your average rookie draft. So I really have no interest in taking him at this price. I have no interest in drafting him in any league before 105, regardless of what my quarterback room looks like. That's just how I feel about him. And it's not even that much about Ward specifically. It's not that I'm expecting him to be a bust. I'm really not even qualified to say one way or another. I'm not a quarterback film guru. This is really about the nature of quarterback scoring and the current defensive meta that we're seeing in the NFL. We saw more teams last year leaning into the run game, in large part because NFL defenses have been increasingly built to stop the pass. It took a decade plus of defenses getting absolutely dog walked by these passing games. You know, guys like Manning and Rodgers and Brady and Roethlisberger just marching the ball up and down the field. Defenses adjusted, and the run game is making a comeback because of those adjustments. But as passing volume and passing efficiency are coming down on a league-wide level, the skill threshold for a non-rushing quarterback to post elite fantasy production has been raised. You look at last year's top 14 quarterbacks in points per game. This comes from the Fantasy Points data suite. We're looking at Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Mayfield, Hurts, Daniels, Goff, Nix, Darnold, Purdy, Mahomes, Kyler, Tua, and Herbert. Now, right away, looking at this list, we see 5 hypermobile quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray. We know mobile quarterbacks are a cheat code for fantasy. They always have been. They always will be. Then we see 3 of the best passers in the NFL in Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. So, elite arm talents, these guys are always going to be up there because they're just incredibly skilled. So who does that leave on the list, right? Who's left other than those 8 guys? It's Baker, Goff, Nix, Darnold, Purdy, and Tua. And if you think about it, these quarterbacks have something pretty important in common. These guys have elite play callers, the vast majority of which come from the Shanahan/McVay tree of coaches. We've got Liam Cohen with Baker Mayfield, Ben Johnson with Jared Goff, Sean Payton with Bo Nix, Kevin O'Connell with Sam Darnold, Kyle Shanahan with Brock Purdy, and Mike McDaniel with Tua, right? So that's a pretty important factor to me. What I'm seeing across the league is you need these elite play callers to elevate your non-rushing, non-elite quarterbacks into that QB1 conversation. Things like pre-snap motion and play action and all of these creative route combos and things that these offensive coordinators and head coaches are doing, they are really changing the game for quarterbacks in this current defensive meta. So if we're looking at Cam Ward, right, the hypermobile option is off the table. This dude is not hypermobile. He had just 200 rushing yards in his best college season. I'm sure he's going to scramble a bit in the NFL, but he's not going to be adding more than a few hundred rushing yards on the ground, right? He can be a tactical scrambler. Maybe he can get up to like a Mahomes level rusher, but that's really the ceiling for him. Then when it comes to becoming an elite quarterback, someone like a Burrow or a Mahomes, I mean, that's just not a likely outcome for any prospect really. But Ward does not strike me as being particularly more likely to become that type of a quarterback than any other recent 101 pick. Even guys like Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, who were billed as generational prospects coming out, have struggled to live up to that standard as passers. So then we're down to the coaching path, right? Can we get him an elite play caller? Well, ironically, Brian Callahan does come from the McVay tree. Brian Callahan, coach of the Titans. He worked under Zach Taylor, who worked under Sean McVay in Los Angeles. However, we really didn't see this type of quarterback magic from Callahan last year with the Titans. He didn't get much of anything out of Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. Obviously, he was dealt a bad hand in this regard. Those are not good quarterbacks. Certainly, we could see improvements with Cam Ward, but as it stands, we do not have evidence that Brian Callahan is a ceiling raiser for an NFL passing game. Then we go ahead and look at the Titans depth chart, and it's not pretty. Calvin Ridley is what? The 25th, 30th best wide receiver in the NFL. And then we've got the ghost of Tyler Lockett. We've got Chiga Okonkwo, a bunch of day 3 rookies, Chamir Dyke and Alec Ayomanor. The offensive line could also be a liability. Pro Football Network had an article out late April ranking offensive lines. They had the Titans at 21st. That's just one source, obviously, but it reinforces my point here that this is not a plus environment for Cam Ward. At the very least, he's not going to have a great offensive line. He does not have great weapons or even good weapons. All this is to say, outside of the scenario where Cam Ward is just the next Patrick Mahomes, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze here at 103. I would much rather swing on Travis Hunter or even Tet McMillan there. Okay, next up on the fade list is Quinshon Judkins, running back for the Cleveland Browns. He's got a rookie draft ADP of 107. He was taken in the early second, 36th overall by the Browns. And I've already kind of walked through why I'm lower on Judkins as a prospect in a couple of different videos. I did a mock draft with landing spots, did my rookie tiers. I cited 3 main concerns for Judkins that I'll summarize quickly. He's one of the least efficient running backs in the class, pretty much across the board. Box adjusted yards per carry, missed tackles forced, yards after contact per attempt. All of it is absolutely brutal for him. He also has an extremely poor receiving profile. He never reached a 9% reception share in any season. He's got a very low receiving yards per team pass attempt across his college career. And he's on the Browns, an offense that pretty easily projects to be bottom 10 in the NFL, if not bottom 5. So you add all that up, I don't think that there's a ton of immediate scoring upside for Judkins. I don't know if there's any kind of like 20 points per game ceiling really in his range of outcomes. Really, your ceiling comp would be like a Jonathan Taylor, someone who was just frankly a much, much better rusher in college. But what I think has gotten lost in translation with all the Judkins talk is that I don't hate the guy. Like, I totally understand why there's appeal for a 21-year-old early declare running back who had workhorse production in college, a 110 speed score, and top 40 draft capital. I'm not stupid. I understand that that is an appealing prospect, all other concerns aside. That's a valuable player. And I have him ranked as a valuable player. But again, fades are necessary if you have rookie draft targets, because you only have so many picks to spend. Even someone like me who's in over 25 dynasty leagues, I only have so many picks I can spend. And if I have the 107 pick, I would much rather trade up a spot and draft Trevion Henderson. I'd much rather trade up a few spots to draft Travis Hunter. I'd rather take Colston Loveland in tight end premium. I've got him ranked ahead. I'd rather take Emeka Egbuka in PPR. I think he's a better prospect. So I don't hate Judkins. He's my 109, right? And if I'm at 109 and those guys are gone and there are no other incredible trade offers in my inbox, I will take Judkins, and I'm not going to feel bad about it because it can totally pan out for him. He's just not my favorite running back, and he's not my favorite price on the board. But if you didn't already hate me for the Judkins take, I'm sure you're going to hate me after this one, because my next fade is Cam Skattebo, running back for the New York Giants. He's got an ADP of 204. Now, Skattebo went early 4th round. I think he went the very next pick after Bishal Tuten, and I would love to draft Cam Skattebo in the late 2nd. I've got him ranked 208. Same tier as Kyle Williams. The current ADP landscape is just making that nearly impossible, because at least in my handful of rookie drafts, there seems to be at least one truther in every league that is going to grab him in the early 2nd or trade up for him in the early 2nd. And the ADP bears that out. 204 for him. He's going ahead of Trey Harris. He's going ahead of Jaden Higgins, Jack Besh. If I'm betting on a round 4 running back in this class, it's going to be Bishal Tuten. And I explained my case for that in the rookie targets video. But the best thing about Tuten is you don't have to pass on these 2nd round wide receiver prospects who landed in good or even great situations. I mean, I do have Tuten ranked ahead of Besh, but you don't have to take him over Harris. You don't have to take him over Higgins. With Skattebo, you have to. And the thing about a day 3 running back is that nothing is guaranteed. The floor is out the window. So I understand that there's some fascination with him as a guy that has a good receiving profile in college. He's got decent size, but you need to feel extremely confident that the ceiling is there when you're passing on these prospects like a Harris, like a Jaden Higgins. I am not convinced that a slow running back on the Giants, who have the 3rd lowest projected point total in Mike Clay's 2025 projections, is really going to burn me. And when I say slow, I mean he is slow. He ran a 4.65 at his pro day. Typically, we see pro day times come in a little bit faster than actual combine times. So really, we're looking at more of like a 4.7 guy, and he's not even that big. He's 219. So he's not some huge freight train of a running back. He genuinely is slow. And again, he's on a bad team. I think the most likely outcome is that he ends up in a committee with Tyrone Tracy, probably getting more of the early down stuff. Even if he steals the job outright at some point, or he suffers an injury, is he really going to carry a lot of significant value into next year? Because Tyrone Tracy gave us 1,100 yards last year in his rookie season, and people were trading him away for early seconds before the draft. That's where Skattebo is already valued. He's already being valued at the ceiling price for Tracy. So I'm passing on him at this price. Again, I just don't see how he's going to become a significant win if you're already taking him at the 204. And next, we're going to get to Mason Taylor, tight end for the New York Jets, rookie draft ADP of 209. And I did make sure to limit this to specifically tight end premium drafts this time. So I'm sure he's going later in non-tight end premium, but I'm probably not too interested in him there either. This is another case where I don't necessarily dislike the player. I just don't like the price. Because when you're thinking about the tight end position in Dynasty or just in fantasy, there's a pretty high threshold for tight end production that actually matters, that actually moves the needle for you. Last season, for example, we got 6 tight ends with over 15 tight end premium points per game. That was Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Njoku, Jonnu Smith, and Travis Kelce. Then we have this big drop off to Sam Laporta at 12.8. And Sam Laporta at 12.8, okay, that's a fine tight end score, but you have Pat Freiermuth at 12. You have Hunter Henry at 11, Mike Gesicki at 10.3. You're talking about guys you can buy extremely cheap. Okay, you can get some of these older productive tight ends for peanuts. Like Zach Ertz, he scored 12.4 points last year. He can be had for a late 3rd or an early 4th. Right, so let's just keep that in mind. You could literally buy Sam Laporta's production last season for a 4th round pick. Sometimes Zach Ertz was on waivers last year. So when I say that there's a high threshold for valuable tight end production, that's what I'm saying. If you're drafting a tight end in the 2nd round of your rookie draft, you should be looking for a guy that has a high-end ceiling outcome. And while I think Taylor could be a really good NFL player, I just don't know how much upside he really offers as a fantasy asset. We've got this tweet from David Gautieri. The lowest collegiate yards per out run for any tight end currently valued top 20 in Dynasty is Jonnu Smith at 1.55 career yards per out run. Jake Ferguson is the only other player in that group under 1.6. Mason Taylor's career yards per out run is 1.10. So he was a full-time player at LSU last year. He ended up with a respectable stat line, but on a per route basis, he was not special. In fact, he was the opposite of special. He was pretty pedestrian on a per route basis. And last year was the only year of his career where you could even say that. He did basically nothing his first 2 seasons there. So he just didn't show us much from a pass catching standpoint to say, yeah, this guy's going to be a high volume, high efficiency tight end in the NFL. His yards per reception wasn't very high. Again, his yards per out run wasn't very high. You compare his production to someone like Colston Loveland, who I understand much more expensive. I'm not saying that they're the same price, but you look at Loveland and Taylor, basically the same stat line for the season: 56 receptions versus 55, 582 yards versus 546, 5 touchdowns versus 2 touchdowns. Here's the big difference. Loveland ran just 218 routes last year. Taylor ran 443. So when we say you got to look beyond the box score, you got to look at market share numbers, you got to look at per route numbers. That's what we mean. Taylor was fine on a season-long basis because he was running so many routes. When you get to the NFL, that's not good enough. There's plenty of guys running routes. You need to be a special player that is going to demand the ball, and you need to be efficient when you get the ball. A guy on the Jets with Justin Fields at quarterback who never really did that in college, I'm just not willing to roll the dice on that guy at the 209. I understand he's a highly drafted player. He's a very young player. He's still, I think he's 20 years old or just turned 21. But as always, it's coming back to the cost for me. Give me Byshal Tootin, give me Kyle Williams, give me Terrence Ferguson, Jalen Knoll, Tyler Shuck. All of those guys are going after Taylor in average ADP, and I would prefer each and every one of them. And then to wrap this one up today, I know it's a little bit of a shorter video, but we just got 5 true fades here on the board. The last one is going to be Shedeur Sanders, quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Rookie draft ADP of 211. I don't know what we're doing here, guys. I don't know. Maybe you missed the memo. Maybe you weren't watching the draft. This guy went in the 5th round. Okay. He went in the 5th round of the NFL draft. He wasn't even the first quarterback selected by his own team. They took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd. His rookie draft ADP is ahead of Tyler Shuck, who went 40th overall, early 2nd round, and is probably going to start week 1. I don't care what you thought of Sanders coming into the draft. It is time to update your priors. You need to adjust to new information because 211 is some crazy anchoring bias to an evaluation that was probably never true in the first place. This guy was never a first-round talent. Now he's facing an extremely uphill battle to find sustained success in the NFL. If you want to take a look here, this is a list of every 5th-round quarterback taken since 2000, sorted by games started. And I'm not going to read the whole list, but the top 2 names are AJ Feely and Sam Howell, who both started 18 games. And even Howell, who was a solid college prospect, arguably a better prospect than Sanders in some ways, he failed to earn a starting job after getting an extended audition in 2023, putting up a lot of raw numbers, but just not doing enough for the team to double down on him as a day 3 quarterback. Could Sanders start games in 2025? He absolutely could. The Browns depth chart consists of Deshaun Watson coming off an Achilles, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel. So anything could happen with that group. I'm not going to be shocked if Sanders starts some games this year, but it is far from a lock. Like he could start games. He could also be the QB3 for the entire year, and I would not be surprised. And even if he does get on the field, he's a non-mobile quarterback with 0 job security. The floor is nothing, and the ceiling really isn't that high. It just doesn't make any sense to me to take him over Shuck. It doesn't make sense to take him over Ferguson, Kyle Williams, so many more interesting prospects in the late 2nd and early 3rd. If you want to take him in the mid 3rd, be my guest. I think I got him at like 307 in a league, but please understand that the most likely outcome is that Sanders never provides value for your dynasty team. Anyway, that's going to do it for today, guys. As always, thanks so much for watching the video. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you enjoy my Dynasty content and you want to see more of it in the future, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want even more bonus content from me, consider becoming a YouTube member where you can get access to my rookie rankings, my overall top 200 Dynasty rankings, weekly live streams here on YouTube, and private channels in the Pure Potential Discord where I'm always answering questions, talking strategy, all that good stuff. I will be back soon with another Dynasty video, and I hope I'll see you then.